Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nancy Molenda, VP of Communications for AEC, and I'd like to welcome you to our latest design webinar featuring extruded aluminum applications. Today, our session is Extruded Aluminum Motorized Enclosure Systems, a case study, presented by Rollercover. Before we start, I have some housekeeping items. All computer, audio, and telephone lines are muted, so if you have a question during the webinar, please select Q&A or chat from the toolbar. Type your question in the dialog box, and our presenters will be able to address your question at the end of the presentation if there's enough time. If not, questions can be answered in a follow-up email. Today's presentation is being recorded and will be available online following this live webinar on the AEC's website at aec.org/webinars and on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/AEC_org. Thank you. Now it's time to introduce our speakers. Michael Morris is founder and CEO of Rollercover LLC, and he has more than 45 years of experience in the residential and commercial construction industry, including sloped glazing, sunroom fabrication, design, and installation. He is the innovator behind the product, and his story will inspire you on new ways to employ aluminum extrusions into practical, workable architectural designs. As the owner of several hot tub and sunroom retail outlets in the 1990s, including Four Seasons sunrooms and Sunbuilt sunrooms, Michael was able to grow these retail companies into the largest in Connecticut and for 2 decades thereafter. For almost a decade, Michael owned one of Four Seasons sunroom's largest franchises, which he sold in 2000 when he began engineering the roller-covered retractable enclosure product. As construction and custom remodeling demands grew and industry interests began to shift, Michael was inspired to develop his own line of retractable enclosure products, now known as Rollercover. Michaela Morris is a 2011 magna cum laude graduate of Fairfield University and has been an integral part of Rollercover since joining that same year. With a dynamic role encompassing management of both the marketing and IT departments, Michaela is instrumental in implementing innovative marketing strategies that enhance company visibility and growth. Additionally, she actively supports the sales team by handling daily lead inquiries and contributing to proposal writing, showcasing her versatile skill set and dedication to Rollercover's success. It's my pleasure to welcome Mike and Michaela today. Mike, take it away.
Hey, how you all doing? Thank you for joining this webinar, and Nancy, thanks for the invite. So it's always an honor to be able to talk about what we do in our industry. As we continue, and I appreciate everybody's time, Michaela is going to assist us with the organization of our charts here, which will help explain a little bit about Rollercover and what we do. Rollercover, we are a manufacturer, fabricator, custom fabricator, manufacturer in Bethany, Connecticut, which I always say we're 15 minutes north of New Haven, which is known as the pizza capital of the United States. It's being argued a lot, but anyway, we also have 20 minutes north, we have Rollercover. We manufacture retractable enclosures, and the reason why I got involved in retractable enclosures, being in the fixed enclosure industry, we had a very large amount of people who wanted to be outdoors on nice days, and then if it was inclement weather, or they just want security at night, whatever the situation, they were able to close their enclosure, and now they had a year-round space, open or close. Now, the main reason why we are in this conversation is because all of our components, excluding some of the hardware, is extruded aluminum. We do not use steel unless we get involved in a construction site where there's a substructure required, and we would offer our services at certain intervals. but our main product are retractable enclosures with extruded aluminum. We have approximately 60 dies that we've designed and worked with our extruder on, who has just been absolutely fabulous. Minimal issues, minimal errors, and minimal dies that we have put to rest over the years. At the onset, we had several dies that we utilized, but as we've grown and expanded our product lines, we've designed our extrusions to where one extrusion could do multiple facets of a project. Now, this specific link that Michaela's showing you, our main extrusions use a 6061 aluminum extrusion. And it's basically an ingot. It's a large, I would call it a big 50-gallon drum, solid aluminum that would get heated to a certain degree by an extruder. And then that would be pushed through this massive machine, which would have our die preheated as well. And it's pushed through and it would come out up to 40 feet long. I usually use the example of a die extrusion machine as what a lot of us grew up with, which were Play-Doh machines, which made spaghetti. You would put the dough in at the top, you would turn the dial, and you would have different shapes with different pockets. And you push the lever and it would purge out a string of spaghetti with a hole in it to make a ziti, or it's a solid piece. Basically, that's the concept of an extrusion machine. So when we designed our product, initially it was for pool enclosures, which was 24 years ago. We used polycarbonate material on the roof and the walls at the onset. Then we changed our makeup of our glazings to polycarbonate and many different makeups and glass on the walls. The main reason why we use polycarbonate on the roof is not only is our product moving, so we're always concerned about any glass breakage, but also it's a lightweight material. It's extremely structural. The main material that we use is a 3/8 monolithic poly on the roof, which is clear with a dual UV inhibitor. And then we have many different 10 mils that could be shading products on the inner side of it. But because of the weight of the material, we're able to do much larger spans with our aluminum die shapes. Now, if I ever went to steel for our components, first, that would just be a nightmare to have the shape, custom shapes that we have extruded or made into a die with several pockets. And the aluminum, the way we've designed it, we have a built-in mini I-beam in the center of our main rafter extrusions, which grant us the ability to span on a single slope, which we would call a lean-to, about up to 24 feet in depth. And we could go hundreds of feet long with the lean-to product. And the picture that you're looking at here, it's called a freestanding skylight. So we could go up to 34 feet wide with a 312 pitch in most states, regions, provinces in Canada. We do also have project, a couple big projects in London. We have them overseas, but majority of our work is in the United States. And that basically is because we're a US company and it's easy access for us for shipping and all this kind of stuff. When we manufacture our enclosures, we'll receive our aluminum dies or aluminum extrusions, and the benefit to them also being aluminum is they're lighter weight than steel. Having employees using heavy lifts to lift the extrusions into our machines would just be catastrophic to us if it was steel. So the aluminum, the way it's shaped, the way the dies are formed, allows great spans and a much lighter system. So we'll take our extrusions, we'll put them in our double miter saw or one of our other saws. We'll cut them to whatever degree is required on each end. Then we would go into our CNC machines and we would pre-program through our own internal system into the CNCs all of the drilling designs that are needed for all of our cross members, for our gussets, for any of our extruded components that interlock with the main rafters. In our water jet, we will water jet 3/4 inch aluminum plates and create a large structural gusset that is not welded at the seam. Those gussets get put into our roof and walls, and they connect together with stainless steel hardware. Thus, the components and all seams are structurally connected. So we do use impacts with torque wrenches, and we try to get it to the best degree before we even sense, based on previous testing, that the hardware would fail from too much torque. But we do use the highest grade materials. We work hard at that because the last thing we need on our projects or our clients is failure. So this is why we use a lightweight structural aluminum on a lot of components and a heavier gauge, a 6061 on our rafters. We use 6063 on our smaller items and 7075 on our gussets. So there's a different variations, and what all these numbers are is basically the strength of that aluminum. So this really gives a heavy gauge structural support as each of the parts are put together to make our systems as a unibodied system, let's say. There's never any rusting because we don't use any steel components, which is a big thing. So if you use steel, you have to coat it, you have to protect it. Often steel can't really touch aluminum because you're going to get a level of corrosion. So you never really even want to put them together. The stainless steel works great, and when we put our system together, it becomes a single system in place. Now, most of the time, we're able to ship our product, each bay totally assembled. As you can see here, this is called a pool enclosure. Now, this specific project is in Maine, and we had to achieve at a 32-foot width a 75-pound snow load. This is a 312 pitch. We were asked by the client, due to their building inspector, requesting a backup local engineer to verify our engineer certification. He went and paid for that, and he got it, and it was verified that our system was able to acquire a 75-pound snow load. Now, one interesting thing about our product is it's designed as a trackless enclosure. So what that means, if it's rolling on the ground, there's no tracks. So when the system opens and closes, in most situations, if it's on the ground, there won't be a track. Thus, when you open the system, you could walk freely out. Now, why do we have tracks? We do. We have a low profile, we have a high wind track. It's based on the application. If the site is irregular in any manner, but it's not in a high wind area, like on a rooftop of a hotel or on a shoreline, we may use a low profile track, maybe only one or two, one on each side, just to keep the system from melding together easily when you roll it open and you close it. But the room, because of the structural integrity of the aluminum and the way it's designed, it is designed as a trackless enclosure. Ease of operation is very easy, one person on each side. And this specific project that you're looking at, each bay is 7 feet wide, and each bay probably weighs around 2,200 pounds on the average. You could easily roll 2 to 3 of those bays in a row, one person on each side, just rolling it open and closed without any minimal resistance. It's the nature of the polypropylene wheels that are at the base of the sill, as the extrusion on the base is a very unique sill detail that allows for us to apply on each side 4 polypropylene wheels with a oil impregnated hub that is molded into the wheel, and there's a stainless steel axle that is self-lubricated by the brass hub. So there's no maintenance to our wheel systems as well. So you have a lot of quick install. When we go to a project, and the reason why we designed it in such a manner that it's prefabricated is that it's easier to install in the field. We do a lot of traveling. We could go to a project, as we just did out in Vegas. We did a rooftop for a nightclub about a month and a half ago. It was about 1,800 square feet, and we installed it in a day and a half, inclusive of the motor system. If it was anything but aluminum extrusions, we would have a very difficult time because of the weight the crane costs, but then you have to apply also the site work requirements. If any structure of our concept is made out of steel, the site would require extensive additional structural support, probably greater ground support, footing details. As we have New York City alone, probably over 100, 150 rooftops on hotels in the city. We are very, very concerned at every aspect about wind load, snow load, about site preparation. We've had zero failures, we have tremendous success, and our clients have had tremendous returns on their revenue because they're utilizing our system year-round, open or closed. So the finish is a fabulous finish. Our extruder, actually, which we praise all the time, he anodizes our product in a dark bronze, which is close to black, or clear. And he also has the ability to powder coat. So we have two standard colors of a powder coat white and a sand tone, or we'll go to a dry lac powder coat product of many, many options. And he would also paint those at a premium charge. We have red, we have a pink, we do a lot of hunter green for different applications. But being that it's aluminum, once again, we're able to paint or anodize at a far more affordable cost than having steel that would have to be primed, prepped, and can't get anodized, as I'm aware. Maybe I'm wrong with that statement, but it's going to have to get some kind of very strong paint process and epoxy. And then you're always worried about the blistering. Steel itself, even protecting it with any kind of protective coating. I've seen it even on vehicles that we have that have protected coating, they still rust through at some point. So we have a tremendous long-term benefit with aluminum. It's long-lasting, it doesn't rot, it doesn't rust, and it doesn't warp. As long as you have an extrusion that is structurally designed and just not a standard tube that could all of a sudden fail over time if it is of a thin wall and a low-grade alloy. Now, because of the nature of our aluminum extrusions, we're able to build a lot of different products. If you look at the left, that's called a lean-to. Now, my lean-tos, I have them, I have one that's 184 feet long by 18 feet deep, 14-foot long, tall front walls. Wall in New York City, I got them across the country like that. I could go 24 feet deep, hundreds of feet long, and we also can motorize them. But if it's a lean-to, if you have good access to the front wall, and if it's not on a parapet, there's no reason to motorize it. Save the money, it's easy to push, as long as you have access to the front wall. The one on the right is a freestanding. Now, this is exactly as the pool enclosure that was shown to you before. We have a lot of restaurants that utilize this product, a lot of nightclubs that utilize this product. But then also there are, we've done a lot of retractable walkways with this concept of a freestanding. We have many MRI retractable walkways that we built, installed for hospitals that have MRI buses that come up, but in the past, or if they've had permanent structures, the buses would hit them and damage them. So actually I spoke at a Build Boston about 8-9 years ago, and an architect came up to me, it probably was a dozen years ago, and said, hey, can we use this as a walkway? I said, why not? I have them out there. Well, I design MRI walkways, and I think this would be brilliant. Well, since then, we probably have a good dozen out there on hospitals for their patients to go through the hospital, through this tunnel, and into the MRI bus. Now, if the MRI bus leaves, or has to leave after a month or two of being on site, they just retract the walkway back. Now they don't have to worry about any damage to the structure. So it's become brilliant in that respect. So there's a lot of ways of utilizing our product. We also have them as a standard safety guard systems on heavy equipment. So we've done several projects where I believe one is in a Ford Motor Company in Virginia. We built it for a company out of New York, a huge CNC die cutting machine that had to be enclosed during operation, but they needed full access to get to it. so they could open the room up and get crane in there and take the parts out or repair the system. So that was a tremendous concept and application. So right now we're actually contracted to do one at Electric Boat in Groton. It's going to be for them to have access into these tubes in this huge barn where they push a button for the retractable skylight. They come in, they retract the equipment out when they don't need it, and they close the roof. Michaela's showing you now different skylight concepts. So you could have a lean-to skylight on a structural steel beam. Now we say steel, I do have people doing aluminum, but if it's a steel beam that wraps the perimeter, it's often the route that everybody takes, because when you're talking of a large span, as bridges, they don't put steel, they don't put aluminum girders into bridges. It's just how it is. Steel is definitely the more structural at the greatest span, but in our business, it would be a disaster to utilize steel for our enclosures. So there'd be a steel perimeter that would support the skylight, and would have it as a freestanding skylight lean-to. On the left, you have a back-to-back system that has a beam down the center, and we have two different enclosures that open separately on each side. On the right, we have what we call a multi-tier. We have a famous one in New York City called Italy that we did years ago, and it's just absolutely spectacular. It looks just like that. So the skylight opens with the motor system, and the two sides open up as well with motor systems. So you could open up at any section at any time, but the spans, as you could see in the center skylight on the right, I could go up to 34 feet wide with extruded aluminum. That's pretty amazing, and still get the snow load requirement and the uplift and the wind load. And nowadays, the wind load's becoming a more of a required calling on how items of this nature are placed on rooftops. But we have the components, we have the high wind tracks, we have the design makeup to satisfy all those needs. So this is an example of a project that is in Vegas, and Michaela's going to take a second, upload a video for you. So this product took about 4 months to manufacture. We usually say 5 to 6 months. We manufacture that entire system in our plant in Connecticut. We stacked it all assembled. It went on top of a flatbed that got shipped out to Vegas. And in 2 days, we installed this entire project. The third day, we just went to tweak it, and the whole thing with the motor system, open and close. So this does have a high wind track. This is about 5 stories up, and this is going to be a future nightclub. We do have another one in Vegas that we did at a casino a few years back, and we're about to get the contract on another massive project in Vegas Strip as well. It's becoming very popular. I think most people, when they think about opening skylight, they think of the Astrodome. Well, now you could have it at your own home for your swimming pool or at your restaurant. Here's a project that we did at a W Hotel. This is in Manhattan. It's 28 stories in the air. And this is a quick video for you to see that we encompassed about 2,000 square feet of this roof. We had to go back and do we manufactured, but had to install a custom hip on the corner. But this whole project, after some crane delays going up that high, took us a day to install. And that is basically by having the system pre-assembled in our plant, shipped on our flatbeds, our goosenecks, and craned up and installed on site. As you can see, we had a lot of employees there because the crane was very expensive, and we're always concerned about weather. Always working under safe conditions, but the beauty of our product as well, mostly for rooftops, is that they're pre-glazed. So you don't have to go on the outside. So if we build an enclosure that sits on a parapet on a 20, 30 story rooftop, we never go on the outside. As a normal fixed enclosure, you'd have to bone it, then glaze it from the outside. Everything is pre-done, and that's what makes it a speedy install. This is one we did a few weeks ago in Providence, Rhode Island, for this cute little bar called Tiny Bar. And this is custom built for this project. This is how this young lady, the owner, wonderful person, wanted it. It's a single slope system. It's got a 2-pitch, and it's called a freestanding, but it's a single slope. And this is going to be for her customers. to enjoy indoor-outdoor use any time of the year. So as you can see on the right, there's a little walkway that we custom built that they could walk through the road to her other areas where there's a bakery, but then there's going to be a doorway that goes into the space. And as you can see, this room is opening and closing. Each section's about 1,400 pounds. Each one easily rolls and open and close. So this is a good example of a length of, I believe it's 18 feet straight, with our roof rafters supporting the required snow load and uplift of winds. In Providence, which definitely has, they have a lot of high demands for quality assurance, and we've met that. We've met their mark. So this is also giving you an example of a project in, I believe it's Rehoboth Beach area, and it's a bar. And because of the shipping height, if we assembled it, the roof and walls together, shipping would have exceeded the 13.6 mark. So at times like this, we'll pre-glaze the roof, put them on certain trucks, reglaze the walls, and then we'll assemble it on site. We'll hold the walls up, and then the roofs will get craned down into the walls. This specific project took us 2 days to install. That included the end custom walls and a little return with the commercial doors. Now they're able to, they basically increase their business over 30%. And this is what we're hearing from most of our clients. Now they're gaining the extra 6-7 months a year of guaranteed event space. They're able to keep their employees going, keeping their vendors purchasing goods, and tax revenues for the towns and cities and municipalities. Communities that that fight our clients on acquiring space for their event space. I could never understand, because that's added revenue for everybody, and it's a good thing. It's a good thing for the public. So these extrusions, because they're aluminum, we are able to manhandle these. We could lift the walls, we could lift the roofs if we had to and need more people, but if that was ever steel, it would be 4 times the weight. If you look at the top picture, that's actually an aerial view of that project Italy that we showed you, that multi-tier on. It's a fantastic place to go if you're ever in the Flatiron District. The restaurant and their Italian marketplace downstairs is amazing, and on the rooftop is a gorgeous beer garden. The bottom left one is an interesting project. This is a residential home in New Jersey. The gentleman built a 110-foot underground tunnel to get to his swimming pool. His swimming pool was outdoors at one time. And now he's got a retractable skylight that's 34 feet wide by 84 feet long. And he's got a lean-to on the front side, as you could see, that comes out like approximately 6 feet, that all opens. Big spans, big snow load requirements, aluminum cut the juice. It could do it. And if you design your extrusions properly, they do not have to be massive extrusions. You can make them moderately sized, but put an added pockets inside with additional I-beams or cross members. You're almost creating like a truss concept. The top picture on the left, it's a back-to-back lean-to. This beautiful project in the Lower East Side of Manhattan. It's on a Moxie rooftop, and they're both motorized. They do phenomenal business because they now utilize the roof year-round, and that's where people want to be, outdoors, and they want to be on a rooftop. They don't want to be indoors at social venues. They don't want to be on the ground. They want to be up on a roof looking around. Now, the bottom left one is I was actually there yesterday, because we acquired another project down in the Philadelphia area. I stopped in to see my client. They put a beam down the center. We have a fixed roof behind the beam to the building. That's all glazed, all extruded aluminum. And then in the front, we utilize the same rafters, but in a telescopic manner. And the front wall is all retractable, telescopic, roll side to side. So you have a lot of different variations in how to utilize certain components. Once again, when you design an extrusion, it's always good to design it for multi-purpose, so you could get the best bang for your buck, and that component could be utilized with a lot of different concepts and products. Here's an example of a 4-season sunroom that the client took down, and they wanted it to open up. This is in the South Shore of Long Island, right on the water, and he just simply pushes his enclosure open, has the same protection as a fixed enclosure. My bays on this were only 5 feet wide. I could have gone to 7 feet wide, but he, that this is the size that we're able to do to come in with the width that he wanted. But as you can see, each bay is probably weighing around 800 pounds, and it's easy to roll. Now you could have your swimming pool, indoor, outdoor. You could exhaust excessive moisture. You could exhaust excessive heat buildup. You could give yourself some breathing room instead of being locked in to a swimming pool in a hotel that is under the building. Having some open space is really the way, it should go with a swimming pool. As you can see, it's a beautiful application, and he's got his dock out there, and someday he promised me to take me on his boat. So we have a lot of great projects out there globally, throughout the United States, wherever you're located. We got them from California to Seattle to all over Chicago. Here's one in Chicago for you called Roots Pizza. They're on the 3rd floor, and this entire roof opens up, and that's their beer garden pizza hall. So there's a lot of great stories, a lot of great success stories to our clients who have utilized our product for year-round use. Now, as you know, it's a windy city in good old Chicago. There are other reasons why they call it windy, but we're not going to go there yet. But what we have is we do have a lot of wind coming off of the lakes. And we have several dozen projects in Chicago that have tremendous success, 0 issues, and have been granted all of the certifications, calculations necessary for proper building permitting. And that's always a concern, and we always maintain that. If we ever question something, we will literally tell the client, I'm sorry, but it's not in our ballpark. It's not what we want to do. And our shapes, because I don't want to go to a taller rafter, have certain limitations. Could I go to a taller rafter? I absolutely could, but then it changes my whole makeup of our infrastructure and how we have to fabricate, ship, install, and then it changes the footprint of the system's rolling areas. So we try to keep it modest, where in a situation like this, the tracking system on the ground or on the rooftop, it's a high wind track, is probably around 30 inches wide on each side. But as you can see, there's 8 bays, that's 56 feet long, and 3 bays roll over to the 4th bay on one side and 3 bays roll to the other. Yeah. And as you can see, we have also, there's a lot of ventilation benefits. Example, I was at a project yesterday and it was very hot. They didn't put the air on because it was very hot in the space. I always declare it as a car in a parking lot. If you go shopping, you come out to your car and you open up your windows just before you get in, it gets overheated. So their business is always evening. So they'll have to close during the day. They don't want debris falling in. They want to protect the space, but why spend the money air conditioning? Understood. But I get there, I said, listen, it's really hot in here because you don't have any windows on your walls. This is how you wanted it. You just want the roof to open close. So I asked them to open the roof. I always like to see how the roof opens anyway, make sure everything's good and set for them for the next operation. And within seconds, the vacuum of air was taking the air from this massive 2,400 square foot ground square foot space, which how many cubic feet that is of hot air, and just transferred it out the roof instantly. And with seconds, the air in the space probably dropped 15 degrees. So you could say that you need a lot of coolant in a system. So glass enclosures are renowned for heavy coolant. When you have something that opens up, you could reduce your coolant requirements by opening the room. And this is the beauty of it. So you don't have a hot box. So when you talk about a fixed enclosure, you got a hot box. So having something open and closed is the greatest benefit. And the way our system is designed, once again, I'm able to give you a large mass of area that could open because of the nature of the extrusion components and the makeup. So this is a beautiful benefit of how we operate and how we manufacture. As I see here, we have a This is a little list of a few comments. I mean, if you happen to go on our website, you'll see we constantly post Yelps comments that customers make, and most of the comments are the space is phenomenal and the food was great, but boy, when they open the roof, or being indoor outdoors is absolutely tremendous. So it's just a great marketing aspect. It's a game changer for our clients. It pushes them to acquire far more business than their competition that doesn't think of innovative ways of marketing. So from that standpoint, it's a tremendous asset. So a lot of these clients here, I have several projects with. And why? Because they have one enclosure, they have success with it, they go on to the next. What's happening is a lot of our clients are going bigger and brighter with our product. And the capabilities that we have, we're able to achieve those milestones because we've upgraded our product components and our extrusions, and we've increased some of our die shapes without changing the parameter or the perimeter of the die. We'll add certain components within, like a small aluminum line down the center that could come down an inch, and it'll add an extra 8 pounds per square foot because we basically added a little girder inside of an extrusion. These are the things that we do. We do it from experience. We do it from common sense. We do it from walking into our plant and doing our own testing, where we'll get components and we'll put blocks and concrete weights on, and we'll measure, and we'll say, how can we make that better? And we'll do a CAD drawing. We'll send it to our extruder, and they're always proactive with us. Why? Because they know that everything that we design is not only favorable to them for extrusions and business, but also they know it's also going to help us achieve greater success and bigger projects because our capacity is greater based on wind and snow load. So when you're designing die shapes, it's always good to be creative, think outside the box. Engineers are extremely critical. There's no question. A lot of engineers do add an extra 30% protection into their stamping because they just want that added security. A lot of times we'll have those arguments with our engineer or another engineer, basically saying, listen, if you look at the product, look at the shape, you're adding your 30%, but let's look at it again. Maybe look at the certain added components that are within the dies and just don't look at the parameter. There are reasons why these components could create the spans that we're talking. And every time they just put that added time in, and they'll do more analysis of our components, and they'll see that even though we may be only a 2-inch by 6-inch rafter, it really will expand out to an 8 or 9-inch tall rafter based on the makeup of the die. So these are things to always look at and be excited about if you're ever designing a product. It's always a thrill when we design new products, which we do all the time, to come up with a die that we could use 6 times in different applications, like our sliding windows. There's 7, 8 components that make up a sliding window, but it's only 2 dies because we utilize those 2 dies in different ways because we added different pockets on each side. So one die could be used as a sash for the other, but then we could flip it and it could be a jamb, and the sash side is hidden in the wall. These are things you do. Why? The die costs are expensive. Stocking materials is expensive, mostly when you have multiple colors like we do. So you don't want to have 60 die shapes of 4,000 pounds of one die on my property. I would need 40 acres if I had to stock all this. So the less die shapes to create the end product is the better stocking you're going to have and the more efficiency you're going to have. No different than being in a diner business or a pizza business. A diner business has to have, from the shrimp to the steaks to their pickles, everything. Pizza guy has to have the dough, the water. He's got to have his, if he puts eggs in it, he's got to have his, pepperoni. I mean, so it's far less stocking. And think that way if you're ever going to design a product. Minimize your component makeup. So I think that we've come to the end of this seminar. And if there's any questions that will be asked at a future After I'm done here, I think that Nancy has a program for that, and I'll be sitting here waiting for any questions. And if there aren't any, I thank you for your time. I hope I gave you some insight. Be well, everybody, and be safe out there.
Thank you, Mike. Yes, we have come to the Q&A portion of the presentation. Michaela, can you go back to the previous slide for me? Thank you. So I want to thank all of our members. All of our members are listed here. As you can see, we couldn't do what we do without all of our members. So we thank them for what they do. They freely share their information between each other, within reason, for best practices. And I think what I want to really mention is if you are interested in making a product out of aluminum extrusion, you can find an extruder on our website at aec.org/findextruder. And then I think what we always like to tell people who are designing with extrusions is get your extruder involved in the design process as early as possible. They can help you optimize your design for the extrusion process, saving you money and making it more efficient, and even saving you time. So be sure to think of your extruder before you finalize your design. You may find that you're going to save yourself money and time. Okay, so on to the questions. Yes, we do have a question about the PDF. Yes, we'll be sending out a PDF of the presentation to all of our attendees once this is over with. And then somebody else asked, is bending being done in T4 temper?
T4 temper. That we don't get involved in here. I don't have an answer, but we could get you that answer. I'm happy to do any follow-ups if I'm questioning something.
Okay. Another question is, why not use 6005A T61 for the multi-void?
That's another question that I'll have to discuss with my extruder. Now, I am not a metallurgist, and the recommendations when we design components would be to design them where they are cost effective, but they give us the best structural integrity, and it's something that our extruder could push. We have inquired about heavier tensile strength on our rafters to create greater depths and more strength, but the pushing is the problem through the die that we could crack the die. So there are a lot of concerns regarding extensive tensile strength. But if there's something specific more that you're looking for, please send me the question and I will ask our extruder, because they're a little more technical on the advancement of extruding.
Okay. Are the extrusions anodized before assembly?
Absolutely not. They are, and thank you for that question. They have to be cooled down before they can be anodized. So they're in a raw state, and most of the time when we just picked up a couple truckloads yesterday of custom extrusions for our projects, because that's how we order them per project. We always get maybe an overrun. So if we got 4,000 pounds, if the ingots come out to 4,000 pounds, but we only ordered 3,200 pounds, well, they're going to push an extra 30 of those parts because they have to utilize the base that is in the extrusion machine. Now that'll come to us raw, but when it's raw, we will ship it back cold. We keep it protected from the elements. It can't get wet or you ruin the ability for the anodizing machine when they dip it to attach to the aluminum. But if it's in-house and we already prescribe to them how many rafters or small parts or whatever die shapes have to be anodized, they sit on it for a day, day and a half, it cools off, then they go and bring it into their anodizing vats and drop them in and anodize them. Usually do like a double drop, and then they let it dry for a day and then they package it and we go and pick them up.
Okay, great, thank you. What specification do you use for the stainless hardware?
It's usually the tensile strength. So our engineer, we would ask them in certain applications what our torque rating would be for our certain size bolts that we use mostly in our gussets. So that's a question for an engineer. We tell them what we want to use. And so we have hardware suppliers that are absolutely amazing that themselves would have to contact the manufacturers of the hardware. And we'll say, listen, this is the rating we need on this certain stainless steel component. And this is the sizing, this is the thread that we need, this is the head size we need. And they would go out and sort them out. So each one is definitely different than the other. Some of them don't have to be as structural because they're more of temporary support. They don't have a lot of, there's not a lot of shear requirement, but then you get the shear requirement on more of our structural gussets and our sill details where we attach our rafters to our sills. So that question is more specifically put to an engineer to tell us which way to go regarding tensile strength.
Okay, and this gentleman also has a question is, can you supply some example profile pictures? So I'm sure you'll probably want to follow up with him separately.
Yes, that would be, I'd have to know more about the request and the requirement. But yeah, we try to stay, reasonably proprietary, but we are very transparent as well. And on our website, we do have some of those items under technical information on our website, which is on the left side, it's number 5. And you could definitely get the shape images. We just don't give out the CAD to the shapes as they are proprietary only to us worldwide. So there are dies, and but please ask the question and we could direct you to that section on our website. Hopefully those drawings would help you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? That's all I've got for now. I'd like to thank everybody for attending. This was a great presentation. I learned a lot. And be sure to visit the Aluminum Extruded Council's website at aec.org for more information about aluminum extrusion, the process, design applications, sustainability, and much more. Again, that's aec.org. An evaluation survey for this webinar will be sent to you shortly. Please share your comments with us. Your input is very valuable and helpful in determining future webinars. And as I mentioned at the beginning, today's presentation is being recorded, and so it will be, the recording of this webinar will be available on our website at aec.org/webinars within the next 24 to 48 hours. And if anybody has any further questions, you can send them to mail@aec.org, and I can forward them on to Mike, and he can answer. So thank you again for attending our webinar, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you, everybody. You be well and be safe out there.
Thank you.